Hi, this is Dr. Sue Doyle, occupational therapist. I wanted to answer a couple of questions that I've been getting about why do people want to age in place and what is aging in place. So, aging in place is really being able to stay in the home where you're at as long as you want to, and being able to do that really well with a good quality of life. And so I just thought I'd share some of the data that has come out recently from the AARP. They published the results of a survey back in November 21 that said that 77% of seniors over the age of 50 wanted to be able to stay in their own home as they aged. And that's where they wanted to live out the rest of their life. And in fact, I thought that COVID would have influenced that a whole lot more. We've all heard stories about people who are in senior living facilities facing increased infections, facing not being able to be visited by their family, etc. But they felt like this was pretty consistent results. So almost 8 out of 10 seniors feel like this is where they want to be, and that is going to be how they want to spend the rest of their days in their home that they're familiar with. Interestingly, about 29% thought that they wanted to relocate from that home to another home in a different community, but one that would offer them some more options, access to cleaner water, healthier foods, safe outdoor spaces. There was a couple of other things that came up that were interesting in the survey for people over 50 that COVID impacted. One of them was that 76%, or more than 3/4 now, of all adults over 50 feel like they need access to high-speed internet. Interestingly, that's a higher number than those under 50. So we've become used to some of our online life and what's available. 58% of adults thought they were very concerned about COVID and how that might impact them and others, and so they were making decisions related to that. 24%, or 1 in 4 almost, of people over 50 felt like that they had become more socially isolated, that they were getting out less and less engaged in their community since COVID. But interestingly, 18 to 24-year-olds, 42%, or almost half of them, felt like they were actually more isolated and lonely. So in some ways, it hasn't affected those over 50 as much as those in the 18 to 24, but still a significant area of concern. Now, one of the things that we know is that older households, that is households headed or households with people over the age of 50, is going to increase dramatically as the age, and 80% of those people over 50 own their own home, and 51% of them have no mortgage, which is an interesting statistic that I thought. The Urban Institute, however, predicts that the number of renters who are over the age of 65 is really going to increase from 7.4 million in 2020 to 12.9 million by 2040. And that's also going to be pretty significant for segments of our population, particularly like African American seniors. But let's talk about what are the benefits of staying in your own home. If you wanted to list some of those, I'm sure you'd come up with some very similar ones to what I'm thinking about. It's a familiar environment. It's one we're comfortable in. It's one that has our valued items, pieces of furniture that we've collected, or things that we like to do, memories of our kids, memories of some of our life that are really comforting to us. Connections with community. We've got neighbors we know. We've got our local church group that we go down to. We have friends nearby. We've developed people that we know at the local bank, at the grocery stores. We have social groups. We go out to bridge, or we go out to bingo, or we go out to some tennis clubs or golf club. One of the things, of course, with COVID, we've talked about that lower risk of infection, right? And in fact, the research supports that living at home, we're likely to be overall in better health and have an increased longevity or lifespan. There could be a little bit of bias in that data because people who don't live at home are more likely to be sicker in the first place. But still, there's the benefits there of improved quality of life. A big one that's coming up is, of course, cost. I don't know if you've looked around at the cost of getting into a senior center or an assisted living, but it's definitely going up, and it's a significant portion, way more than Social Security or any of that could provide for. And then it just gives us that improved sense of independence and quality of life, and still that ability to make decisions and feel like we can still be ourselves in that environment. What are some of the downsides? There are downsides. With everything, there are pros and cons, and in this situation there are some too. And particularly if you're no longer able to drive, there may be a sense of isolation. You can't just go down the hallway to an activity group or to meet your friends for dinner in the dining hall. So there may be some issues of that socialization. There may be some difficulty accessing services. One of the things to think about is that there's already a shortage of caregivers, and that shortage is predicted to grow significantly over the next few years and be sustained. In fact, I was just listening to a lecture on now they're training robots to be caregivers because of that shortage. So just thinking about that may be one of the downsides, and it may be potentially a little better in a place like an assisted living. Some of our homes just aren't made for us to continue to live in if we have mobility problems, and there's some difficulty there. So that may be one other reason. And then we have to think about the home maintenance, right? There's the lawn to mow, there's the roof and the gutters to keep clean, there's the outside painting, the inside painting, inside cleaning the showers, the bath. Who shovels the snow in winter? How are we going to look at those costs? And then some people think about potential safety concerns to senior people, or a senior living at home alone. They feel like there's a risk. So there's some potential things there. All of those can be overcome in both situations. But I want you to think about how they may impact your decision making, and also being able to then provide for some of those pros and cons. When AARP asked seniors about staying in their own home, 1/3 felt like if they were to do that, their home would need modifications for them to be able to stay there. Interestingly, part of what we know as occupational therapists and looking at the housing stock in America, we know that there are actually even more homes that need modifications. Less than 1/3 of them could actually cater for someone who has a significant mobility impairment. So we need to think about that. Some would consider moving homes to one that would allow them to stay there longer so that it is more accessible. And 1/4 of the people surveyed felt like they would need to move. So if you were needing to move, what would you look for? And note, we'll have more videos coming up on this. This is just kind of a rough introduction. But people were looking at things like having a bedroom on the main level that they could easily access to senior friendly activities, transportation options if they were not driving. Here's 2 that were really surprising that came up in that survey: access to senior friendly work opportunities and access to senior friendly volunteer opportunities. Well maintained and safe open spaces so that they could get outside and do things. So overall, there are many reasons that people want to age in place, and there are many reasons why they may consider moving or make a choice against that. It's really individual, and to help you prioritize and to identify those goals takes a team of people. But if your home may need modifications, or you're looking at a reason to age in place, then having an occupational therapist on your team is going to be really important, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. But the goal of this video channel is to help you age in my home safely, and that's the key. Wishing you all the best and aging well in place, and we'll be back soon with another video.